Today, ladies, I want to talk to you about a really, really big flaw that I have seen amongst women trying to lose weight, trying to get healthy. And this flaw in particular is very, very tricky because it shows up way later in your journey. Okay. And so most of you listening to this right now probably aren't even near this yet, but my hopes in bringing this up and teaching you about it is that you can either avoid it by the time it does come around, or at least lessen, how devastating it affects your progress. Okay. And so if you're listening to me right now, you have a goal, you're working on a goal, or you've already reached some type of goal. And then this flaw in particular that I'm going to talk about, it shows up usually after you've reached your goal. Okay, so I want everybody for a second to think of that big goal they're trying to achieve, their dream body, and I want you to put yourself in the mindset of being there already. Okay, and that's where this flaw starts to manifest. Now, the flaw in particular that I'm talking about is what I like to call, I made this name up, it's just the self-proclaimed expert disorder. Okay, self-proclaimed expert disorder. And basically what this is, well, first and foremost, it's something we are all in danger of suffering from, myself included. Nobody is exempt from this. It is kind of like this subconscious manifestation of comfort that we really can't escape unless we know it's there and unless we have other people noticing as well. But basically, it happens once you've reached your goal, right? You say, I did it, I'm done, woo! And then what happens is you take your foot off the gas pedal and you coast. Right? So I want you to think about, what was going to happen once you reached your goal? Did you even plan that far yet? Probably not, right? You're probably just working to get to that goal. So this is after the fact, right? And then if you reach it, you're like, woohoo, yay, I did it. That was what I needed to do. I got it done. And then we think, I knew what to do. I know what to do. I know how to do it. I'm good now. I'm on my own. All I'm going to do is maintain, right? I'm just going to maintain from here on out. I'm happy. But then what ends up happening is if you catch yourself in that little cycle, okay, years down the road, this self-proclaimed expert disorder, it bites you in the ass, and you still end up old, fat, unhealthy, and in pain. Okay, so imagine a year from now, imagine 12 months from now, you have your dream body. What's something you couldn't even imagine in your wildest dreams. A year from now, you're there. Then imagine 5 years later, you're back here again. How frustrating is that? I don't think anybody on this call or anybody who starts a weight loss or health journey ever wants to end up back where they started, right? And right now in your journey, you're probably tackling not looking for fat weight loss and not gaining weight back fast, right? We're trying to avoid, when you're in the beginning of your journey, it's avoiding quick fixes and working on not gaining it as fast as you lost it, right? That's kind of all where we are right now, right? We've all lost, 10 pounds in a week before, but then gained it back in 2 days. We've all been in that really fast weight loss, weight gain before. But this is something that's going to creep up later. And when you suffer from the self-proclaimed expert disorder, this is when you start to get really bitter and really resentful, and you start living in the past. Okay. And so I think we all know somebody in our lives who's living in the past, right? So who in your life is living in the past? So they're like, oh, I used to be a size 0. Oh, I won that football game in grade 12. Like there's somebody who's always reliving the glory days, right? So in the comments, tell me who that is. Who's that person in your life that's stuck in the past? Their best days are behind them. I can name quite a few in my life. I'm not going to name them because they probably watch these videos. I'm not going to name them. So there's people who are living in the past, right? They live in the past because all the good stuff was behind them. And that's what I don't want my idiot brother, my sister and brother-in-law. You guys are so funny. We don't get to choose our families. But yeah, so that's what this self-proclaimed expert disorder is endangering you of turning into, right? You don't want to become like your brother-in-law. You don't want to become like your mother-in-law, your sister. You don't want to become these people whose best days are behind you, who had that fit body, who used to be healthy, but you have nothing to show for it, right? That's not what we're doing this for. It's permanent, lasting forever. And that's what's in danger here. And that's kind of what I would talk to. So that's kind of what it is. So now I want to talk about how it manifests and how to avoid it. Okay. So in order to do that, I want to ask you as a question, how many years of schooling did you do particularly? So how many years did you spend in school, right? So there's kindergarten, elementary school, high school, college, university, internships, co-ops, volunteering, trades. Like how long did you spend on your education, right? Maybe you made it up to high school, maybe you went further. How many years did you spend in the school system? 19, 20, a lot, right? Most people spend at least 14, right? Because most people make it to high school. That's about 14 years of schooling, right? And why do we do that? Why the hell do we spend the entire beginning part of our lives in school? Well, it's because, I mean, first and foremost, you need to know the basic knowledge to survive in society. And usually up to high school is going to provide you with enough socialization and knowledge to be successful and given the right opportunities in high school or after high school, right? In life. I mean, we can debate on how effective that is, but that's for another discussion. For now, it's like, okay, this is the basics. This is what we're given. But here's the thing, ladies, after you stopped school, after you stopped, wherever you stopped, did you stop learning? No, you never stopped learning. You probably learned something new today. And so that's kind of, for me, what life is all about. I think I choose to believe that the meaning of life is to always learn and evolve and grow, to unlearn bad things and learn new things that elevate your mind. And then share your wisdom as you learn with the world. Like, I don't know about you ladies, but can you think of a better meaning for life? Like, why else are we here? What else is there to do except learn and grow and share that? There's nothing else to do. That has to be, or at least that's what I choose to believe we are here to do. And life is structured like that. Life is structured to be learning indefinitely, right? If you look at the corporate ladder, people are promoting you like you're going up in grades, right? That's how life is structured. Like there's learning indefinitely. But here's the thing. For some reason, I've yet to figure out, for some reason, we think we're exempt from that indefinite learning when it comes to weight loss and health. We think when we reach our goal, we stop learning. We don't need to do anything else, right? You following me? But here's the thing. You are in weight loss school. You are in health school right now. You are in school right now. But we forget that for some reason. We for some reason, we don't expect that here. And it's funny because right now, you are in kindergarten. You are in kindergarten in weight loss school, right? We're in kindergarten. We're just starting out. You are just starting out. And this is where the problem comes in. Number one, we forget that we are in kindergarten, right? Kindergarten, starting from the bottom. And number two, ladies, is that we think when we reach our goal, we've graduated, right? Isn't that what you're thinking? Isn't that like the end goal? We don't really look past that. But here's the thing. If learning is indefinite in life, so is it in health and in weight loss, which means there's no such thing as graduating. There's no such graduating here. You don't graduate here. You just keep leveling up, keep going up in grades. I mean, you could look at death as your graduation. That's a hell of a graduation present. But there is no graduation. There isn't. So why do we think that we are getting somewhere and stopping there? We forget that this is an ever-evolving process. And when we don't have a goal ready for after our goal, when we coast, when we take our foot off the gas pedal, doesn't matter how long it takes. Maybe you can maintain that dream body and that optimal health level for a couple years. But if you take your eye off the ball for even a little bit and forget and think you're better than everybody else, think that you don't need to learn anymore, think that you've known everything you need to know and you can do it by yourself, that is when you screw yourself over. That is when that self-proclaimed expert disorder sinks in. And it's possible for everybody. It's not this narcissistic disorder that starts to pop in. It's just that, oh, you're forgetting you're a student. Because you've come so far, you think you're now an expert and you think there's nowhere else for you to go because you've graduated. Does that make sense? And that's what's in danger of happening because you've never experienced that phase before. You've never had that goal. You've never worked so hard for that goal, achieved it, and then been there scratching your head like, oh, now what do I do? Right? In that moment, it's important that you say, okay, I'm a student again of something new. I'm a student again of my next goal. Because when you forget and think you're done and think you've learned all there is to learn, that's when you flunk out. That's when you fail. That's when you drop out of the school of life. That's when you really, I mean, you're saying you're better than everybody else because you don't have to learn anything anymore. Right? But that's just not true. There's always something to learn, and you will always be faster and better and stronger with somebody beside you, whoever that is. Right? So when we think we've come far enough, that's when it becomes dangerous. Does that make sense, ladies? And so I really want you to be aware of that. I've come far enough, or I've worked hard enough, or I deserve this, or I can take a break now. You don't get to take a break from health. Health doesn't stop. Health is forever. And can you learn everything there is to learn in forever? That just hurts my brain thinking about. No way. No way. And so we need to realize that principle applies to your journey that you're going through right now. You're never going to stop learning. You're never going to stop needing something new or some new piece of knowledge or a new guide. There's always something for you to learn, and you won't always be able to find it with yourself, right? Because what's the saying? If you're not growing, you're dying. Do you guys believe that? Yeah, believe that in your soul. If you are not growing and evolving, you're dying. You're staying still because you get left behind. Your results will get left behind year after year. And you'll end up miserable, alone, unhealthy, overweight, reliving your glory days at family dinners, talking about the past, instead of creating new memories, instead of loving the body you're in. You love the body you used to be in. And that's terrifying. That's not where you want to end up. But it's very, very real, and I've seen it happen again and again and again, right? I talked to thousands of women all week long about how they used to be because they got comfortable, because they forgot they were a student, right? And it doesn't help. Like, the world, unfortunately, there's less wise people than there should be. There's less people living by the I'm a student rule, and more people leading by I'm already an expert, you can't teach me anything rule, right? That's just the way that it is. And because of that, because that's like what you're around all the time, it's what you start to adapt, right? Overweight people have overweight friends. They just adapt. Us humans, we're extremely adaptive, right? And I'm sure as you lose weight, your family's going to lose weight. Or you lose friends. That's the ultimate way to lose weight. You just lost 200 pounds right there by losing a friend, right? We adapt. And it's not easy, but it's something you need to be very, very aware of, because you've never reached that goal. So you're not prepared for what happens after you reach that goal. And that was my hopes in today. So I want you guys to realize you guys are a forever student. At every stage, at every level, at every goal, you are just a new student learning a new thing, in need of a new teacher and a new source of knowledge. Okay. I also need you to understand that there's never nothing for you to learn. When you think you're done, that's when you are in trouble. When you're like, oh, when you exhale, that is when you're in trouble, right? Nothing ever good happens from settling or for thinking it's done. Because if it really was done, if you reach that dream goal you have and you really were done, well, that's kind of boring. Like, now what? Now what do you do? Now what do you work towards? Now what's going on in life, right? There always needs to be something you're working towards, because there's never nothing to learn. And what I want you ladies to do right now is I want you to already be thinking about what is going to happen after you reach your goal. And I know that's a crazy thought, because for most of you, for the longest time, you never even thought it was possible, yet alone thinking about what happens when you get there and then planning what you're going to do after that. Like, that's just a crazy thought in itself. But I need you guys to know that, or I need you to start planning for what happens after you reach that goal. So you do not become a self-proclaimed expert. So you don't get there and say, congratulations, me, I've done it, I've reached it. Woo, I can take a break, right? That's not what I want. And so I want you to take a second, okay? I want you to envision your life at that goal weight with that dream body, that dream health, that dream fitness level you have that you've always dreamed of, okay? What are you gonna do after that? What happens next, right? So I want you to take a second, okay? And I want you to tell me your goal in the comments. So that big goal you're working towards right now, what is that dream goal? Put it in the comments. And then I want you to tell me what happens next, right? Have you thought about your next goal? Have you thought about, what kind of life you want to lead next? What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be continuing, educating yourself, continuing coaching? Have you even thought about it? And it's crazy because I bet half of you have thought about it, half of you haven't. But either way, you haven't thought of it as from the perspective of, oh my goodness, if I don't think about it, that's when the danger sets in. Maintain new body and health for life. Love it. That's what it is. And then we want to make sure if that's the goal, we keep learning new things, right? When we talk about maintenance and consistency, it gets real boring, right? And that's a good thing, right? People who are successful are good at doing the boring work. Can I get an amen? Who knows what I'm talking about? Right? Is marriage boring sometimes? Does that mean you just jump out of it? No, if you work through the boring times, it's way more rewarding. And you pile those bricks on layer by layer when you do the boring work. So you have to do the boring work, but you have to make sure the boring work is still elevating you, right? And we need something else. We need something else. So my goal is 125 pounds. After, I will maintain and continue to work hard and challenge my body. There we go. So challenge my body. So that's a good part. Like, that's a good point. Like, what's the next goal going to be? Is it going to be a body composition goal? Is it going to be, I want to put on X pounds of muscle? Is it going to be, now I want to run a marathon? Is it going to be, I want to do a pull-up? Like, what are these concrete quantitative goals that you can work towards and be proud of and prove to yourself that you are still learning something, right? Just coasting, you're not giving your chance an ability to learn something. And if you go too long without learning something, that's when you start to get in your own head. That's when you start to get full of yourself. And that's when that self-proclaimed expert disorder starts to seep in. Does that make sense? Is that making sense, ladies? So if you go too long without learning something, that is when you are in danger. And I see it the most when after people reach their goals, their big goal that they've been trying to reach forever, because they thought that was the end. They thought, if I can do that, game over, I'm good forever, right? But that's not it, okay? You are in danger of staying who you are or coming back to who you are now if you don't constantly put yourself in a place of learning something new. Does that make sense, ladies? It's a pretty interesting topic because it's far in the future, right? Not super far, but it's something we've never really talked about because it's all about making it to our goal, right? But then what happens after our goal, right? We talk about all the great things we're going to get to do, who we're going to be, all that wonderful stuff, but we forget to mention, oh, there's still challenges. There's still obstacles. You haven't learned everything you could learn. Like, what happens next? And I think that's why it's important to talk about. And I really just, my goal is for that. This is just to be on your mind, just to have it on your mind and prepare yourself. And maybe even recognize that maybe you do suffer from that self-proclaimed expert disorder every now and then. Because sometimes I know for me, it seeps in. I know if I go too long without a coach, or if I go too long without reading something new, I start to think I don't need to. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I start to think I'm like, okay, I'm good. I've gotten where I've gotten. Let me see where I can go by myself again, right? But I can only get me to where I am. I need something else to boost me, to push me, right? And that's where the learning comes in. And I think not only is it going to keep you moving forward and stop you from stagnating, I also think it does absolute wonders for your self-confidence. Like, how proud of yourself are you when you learn something new? When you failed at something, kept persisting, were really uncomfortable, hated every second of it, but now you're good at it. How rewarding is that? How proud of yourself? How confident that you can handle anything and take on anything do you become? So much, like, especially in for me being an entrepreneur and being in business, I'm like putting out fires every day. And there's there's moments of anxiety, moments of, oh my God, I fucked up. I made a mistake. How can I do this? I'm falling behind. Like, there's the little fires and that little voice in my head all the time. But at the end of the day, I can sit down and say I made it through and I actually became better. I became stronger. I improved this side. I improved this side. I built calluses on my mind and I'm going to feel less anxious tomorrow at the same situation. Same idea here. It's not going to be that you're decreasing that anxiety and overwhelm over time, which you can do. But in this scenario, you're decreasing that self-proclaimed expert disorder from creeping in, right? The second you start to feel like you're the shit, like, I got this, that's dangerous. And we all know those people. We all know those people too, who are know-it-alls, right? Who think they've graduated and are professors. They think they're the professors for everything, right? We all know those people, and you can't tell them anything. And they usually are the ones that get into a heated debate with, because for some reason they just want to yell their opinion at you and not to hear your opinion, just to state their own opinion. But again, that's not who you want to become either. And so really check yourself. Check yourself. When that thought of, okay, I'm done, this is good enough, when that thought seeps in, be like, okay, watch out, Madison, take a second, right? Take a second and realize I'm in kindergarten. I'm still learning my ABCs. Calm down. Not gonna go straight to cursive writing in kindergarten, right? Usually doesn't happen. I'm not gonna go from an infant to sprinting. It's not gonna happen. I gotta learn to crawl first. So just remember the steps. And I think remembering that you're in kindergarten is also quite calming, to realize that it's okay if you screw up. It's okay if it takes longer than you think. It's okay if things aren't going your way. You are in kindergarten. You are a student. As a student, it is your job to fail. As a student, it is your job to fail, because that is the only way you test what you've learned, and you test your comprehension of what you've learned, right? Doesn't that make so much sense? The only way you learn as a student is by failing, because the only way you test how well you understand something and how good you are at something is by doing it. And you're not going to get it right on the first time, the 10th time, the 100th time. You're going to fail a bunch of times before you ace the test. And then guess what? When you ace the test and you ace something and you're proud of yourself, there's another test that you fail coming around the corner, right? But if you let that self-proclaimed expert disorder creep in, you never get tested. So you forget that you're, for lack of a better word, dumb, right? There's nothing to prove that you have anything to learn. There's nothing to prove that you're lacking in any area. So you don't think you're lacking in any area. And when you think you don't lack in any area, well, then you think you're the shit. You think you're good. You think no one else could tell you anything. And I don't ever want to become that kind of person that gets defensive or puts a wall up when someone tries to tell me something, tries to tell me a character flaw, or tries to point out a bad habit I have, or tries to say, hey, I have this point of view. Do you want to hear what I think about it? Like, I don't want to become the kind of person that pushes people away, or pushes opportunities away, or stunts my own growth because I think I'm already where I need to be, or I think I'm as good as I'm gonna get. I want to always question where I am, even after I've gotten to where I've planned to get for so long. Take a second, revel in the moment, enjoy, but don't get comfortable. Keep looking to the next thing. And that's super important. And that's what I hope we take away from today is you guys are a forever student. You're always learning. It's okay if you mess up. In fact, that's the only way that you cement what you've been learning, and start to plan so you can have that security of not suffering from that disorder. Have the security after you reach that goal. Start to plan that. Start to plan what happens next so we can already be in that mindset. It's also good to manifest that too, right? Planning what it would be like and what life will look like is also going to make it more likely to happen as well. Okay, ladies? So really quickly, I want to see what your takeaways are. What are your revelations from this little call? Okay, so put them in the comments. Do you realize, you suffer from the self-proclaimed expert disorder? Do you have a lot of people in your life that do? Have you even considered what happens after your goal, right? Do you have to reassess how you handle things, right? Do you need to stop looking change the way you look at failures and reacting to failures, right? Like, what's the thing that we need to take away from this that's going to help you today? So let me know in the comments. In order to grow, you need to keep learning. Super simple. I love it. Lifelong learning is what it's all about. Absolutely. And it's funny, and it's also about the reminder to learn for your life. We forget that. And that's also why I keep hiring coaches too, is because I know a lot of shit. I know a lot of shit, but I forget that I know so much stuff. And then I need these people to be like, oh, hey, this is what you got to do, right? So it's learning lifelong, but also remembering what you learned, right? Because there comes a point where you learned something a year ago, and now you've learned so much a year later, and you forgot what you learned a year ago, but it's useful. Can we pull it back out? It's that balance of what you learned as well. If you're not growing or evolving, you are dying. Absolutely. At every point in life, you'll be a student in specific areas of learning. Absolutely. In every area of life, you are a student. There's always somebody who knows more. There's always a missing puzzle piece that can help you become better at whatever it is you're looking for. I know in the past, I've always reached my goal weight and then let my guard down. Yes. And to realize this for life and keep learning every day to maintain my goal. Absolutely. That's it. A reminder that health is a lifelong growth. Yes, never even thought about reaching my goal. Exactly. That's a big thing too, right? Like, hey, now you've reached it. What happens? Like, oh yeah, now thinking about this, you have to acknowledge that you're actually going to reach it, which is also scary, right? Because you sometimes don't want to think about you reaching that goal, because then you actually have to work really hard to get to it, and then you're going to have to face a lot of failures along the way, which is too scary, which is what we kind of want to avoid altogether, and which is why we're here in the first place, because we've been avoiding the failures that you have to go through to get there. Y'all know what I mean? You feel that one on a deep level, right? Like, planning what happens after you reach your goal is you admitting to yourself that you're going to reach your goal, and that in itself is scary. Actually realizing you're going to reach your goal is scary, because you didn't think it was possible for so long, or you've never been able to maintain it before. So now it's like my cards are on the table. Everything is at stake now. It's not, oh, I'd like to reach my goal, and then if you don't, you're not disappointed, right? But now cementing it, you actually face failure. You face disappointment. You face you disappointing yourself a lot more, right? But that's part of the game, and that's what we work through together as well. Not taking for granted, I reach my goal and then falling off. Yes, reach my goal, now what? Need to think about what after? Absolutely. The learning never stops. I will make a plan after I reach my goal. Exactly. So lots of good stuff, guys. I think what this kind of just opened up in you guys is like, what happens next, right? So I want you to really think about that, because that means you are admitting you're going to reach your goal. And I don't think a lot of you listening to this, I don't think a lot of you have actually 100% believed that you're going to reach your goal. I think you think it would be nice. I think you think you're going to get somewhere you're happy with. But I don't think you actually believe you're going to reach it, because you failed so many times, or it seems so far away. So I think planning after is a very good step to 100% believing that goal is going to come, which is really exciting and really brave too, ladies. Very, very brave to admit that. Very few people don't. Very few people want to reach that goal because it means putting in work, and it's messy work. It's ugly work that nobody wants to do.